So what's up everyone, Pain Freak, the Freak Chef with another awesome recipe for you. This is actually going to be going to a client, so got everything scrubbed down and everything, ready to start with what's called round steak. It's just simply just round steak. It's done like kind of in like a thicker gravy, mashed potatoes type, really homey type, down home comfort food, I guess you could say. So we're going to get started, and I have some delicious round steak from my favorite butcher. Oh yeah. So I get the whole round steak. You can get them in the packages that are already cut up as like round steak, whatever, or smaller pieces. But I prefer to do it this way. Typically, I do not take a party of like 15 people. Just because of my limitations here that I can really do. And even in a client's kitchen, sometimes it's very hard. But for a recipe like this, I'm actually doing it, it says you want to do it in a pan, typically in a larger frying pan or skillet, because it takes a while. So we're getting a head start on this because we don't want to spend 4 hours, from start to finish, breaking down a bunch of round steak and then letting it brown and then simmer in the pan. So it could be kind of lengthy in time. This plastic. There we go. Look at these beautiful round steaks. This is what a whole round steak looks like. Just like that. And this is the part where I cut it down. I'm going to cut it into smaller pieces. This is going to be one. Typically when you get a round steak in the store and you get it in those packages, this is what's the eye of round right here. There we go. Just trying not to cut through the other one. I just want to pull this out to show you this section right here. Okay. So this is what you're typically getting if you get a package. If you get them like in a package at the butcher, you'll see like round or whatever. This right here is also, when you take the whole thing, what a lot of roast beef, like roast beef is made out of, when you do the whole roast. But for this, we are going with, I'm going to pull 2 sections off the short end here. And there we go. Down here, we should get about 3 to 4. So, come in here like this. I'm being careful not to cut through the others because I really want to show you this part first. Another 2 pieces. Yeah, we'll get about 4 off this easily. Okay, and I'll just take this piece about here. There we go. Alright, so what I'm going to do is, just for now, the pan's not hot yet, but I just want to show you how to trim some of these up. Now that we know how to break down the actual round steak, I'm just going to borrow some real estate over here real quick. And I want to get rid of some of this fat. We don't want a whole lot of it on there. This will be used for another, recipe or whatever. And I'm also going to take this, trim that back. And once you break through it, take your knife. Sometimes you can come right around. There we go. I always want to leave just a little bit of it on. It's going to get very soft and tender. This will keep as is. That one should be fine. I'll just trim that out there. Okay. So these smaller pieces you can use for like stew meat. Again, I'm just pulling some of the chunkier fat off. Not all of it, but just enough. So it doesn't get real tough to shrivel up a lot. Just come right through it like that. Just like this. Again, just come right around. sometimes just pulls right off. And that's our eye cut right there. So here we go. We've got quite a few pieces here. And we're going to do this to the rest of the steaks. So it'll be pretty much the same exact thing. So each round steak is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces. I was banking on 6. So this is actually really good. Quite a big yield off this. And we're going to break down the rest of those. And then I'm going to show you the next step. Alright, so we got all of our steak cut down, round steak. And again, like I was saying earlier, the longer you cook it, the better it is, the softer it becomes. It's a nice, cheap, affordable cut of meat that goes a long way. And doing it this way, it's sure to please the crowd. So, next up, now that we got all of our meat broken down, we're going to do a little bit of tenderizing. Sometimes it's not necessary depending on how thick or big the pieces are or whatever. So, I'm just going to take, we'll just start with a couple pieces. Throw them out on the board. We want to make sure it's the right amount that'll fit in our pan. Because we're going to do this in some batches. And we're not necessarily going to pound these. But I did plastic on the board just to kind of help clean up later. So I just like to take the thicker spiked end of a meat tenderizing hammer, and I'll just take my hand like this, just kind of roll it a little bit, just to break up some of that tissue. That helps tenderize it even more. And if you're cooking this fast and you're not going to do a slow cook, you want to make sure you really tenderize these, because it will be tough if you only cook it for a short amount of time. Because we're going to get to our seasoning now. And with our seasoning, I'm going to start with just some onion powder. Very simple. A bit of salt. I'm using kosher salt. You can use regular table salt for this if you'd like. A little bit of black pepper. And that's it for this part. So we have a pan ready. I'm going to go ahead and heat that up. And like I said, we're doing this in batches. Now, we can't simmer all this in one pan on the stove. So I have a tray in here that already has some turkey stock in, or not turkey stock, that was from another video. Beef stock. We're doing beef today. So that already has some beef stock in there. So, be good with that. Next, I'm going to get some flour on here. This is why I put the plastic on the board. It's going to be a lot easier to clean the cutting board once this flour is all over it. And as far as butter, let this start melting into the pan. You can use olive oil, you can use vegetable oil, use a number of different things. I just like to use the butter because that's the traditional way. I was taught this recipe and shown it. And let's use the whole thing. Alright, now we're going to turn these over. We're going to just pat the flour in. Shake that, turn that over. And now we have our unseasoned side. It hasn't been floured yet either. That's okay. And a pinch of salt. We added enough pepper on the other side, so we're not going to worry about the pepper. Then we'll just do a little bit of onion. Again. Because we're going to re-season it with salt and pepper and all that later on too. Now we're just going to turn these back over into the flour that we shook off the top. Dredge those, pressing on them to put all the seasonings in there and make it adhere. I like to season the meat first before the flour. Sometimes people like to season flour. I think it's a lot of waste of seasoning and it burns off. It doesn't actually get into the meat. There we go. And our butter's all melted. And then we'll start dropping our meat in. See how the butter's just smoking right now? That means it's hot enough. It's not too hot. Shake your excess flour off. Again, I'm going to try to fit all this in the pan. And it's okay. Look at that. Just enough room. Alright. Go ahead and discard these quick. Get that heat just a little bit, and we sprinkle a Worcestershire sauce on there. going to brown these for a little bit, and then turn them in about 3 to 4 minutes. Brown the other side, and then we're going to drop them into the tray that I have in the oven with a rack on it, so that the meat's not hitting the bottom of the baking sheet that I'm, the big tray that I'm putting them in. And I'm going to slowly simmer those in the oven as if I'm doing it in a big ass pan up on the stove. And that should take about 2 hours. And I have the oven set at 400 degrees, so I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. And the stock that I have in there, it's the beef broth that I made in the slow cooker for a previous recipe that I saved yesterday to use today. So that's the base of the beef stock. You can use water with beef bouillon cubes. You can use pre-made beef stock, however you want to do it. Just use what you have. And since I already made that stock, I want to reuse it because it's fresh, it's homemade, and it was used to cook the pot roast in last night. See how it's not sticking to the pan? That means it's ready to turn. We just have a slight little brown going on each side of these. Another 3 minutes on that side. And if you're keeping track of it, I didn't put the pepper on one side of these. So this is where I'm putting the pepper on, so it didn't burn off when I had it, when it was cooking in the pan on the first side. So I'm just going to add a little bit of the black pepper. 3 minutes later, we're going to move the stuff from this pan into the tray with the rack on it with the broth and all that in there. And that's also going to be the base of our gravy that we're going to make to serve with this and the mashed potatoes. So, all right, so look at that. That's looking really good. That's exactly what we want. So off we go into our pan. So here's what I was talking about. It's got the gravy and, well, the stock and all that we made last night. We're going to use that as a base for the gravy, but that rack that's on there is going to keep it from sticking to the bottom of the pan and burning some of these. So I'm going to go ahead and get this in there. And we are going to repeat this process all over again. There we go. I'm just going to put this to the back for now. Get this in there. And yes, we are going to cover it eventually. But we're going to go ahead and do this in batches. Just keep adding it to the pan. I got another pan if we need it, ready to go on another rack. So, yeah, once that's done, we'll check back with it. So, we got our last batch of round steak out of the pan. Well, we got a lot still in the pan that we want to work with. So, I'm just going to use a little bit of this white wine because we're going to deglaze all this to pull all those bits out. So now that our pan's nice and hot, we're going to grab the heat just a little bit because the wine is cold. And drop that in there. Just a little bit. We're just going to go back and forth. I don't want to scrape it all off. We're just going to run it back and forth. It's going to loosen up on its own. Just like that. That's reduced by about half. That's looking good. Come to our better than bouillon. This is the base we used in the original stock. Grab some of this. And I'm also going to grab about 2 cups of water. I'm going to go ahead and add the water now. I said about 2 cups. And then our better than bouillon. This is just like a beef bouillon cube, but it's more of a paste. It's not going to reduce down too much, so we can go a little strong on that. There we go. It's going to come up to a simmer. We're going to incorporate all that. There we go. So that's bubbling. We're going to go ahead and add this to the pan with all the meat in it. And then I'm going to cover it in foil. And it's still in the oven. We're going to check on it in about an hour. Rotate everything so that everything gets a nice even cook in the pan. Leave it in there for another hour. And then we'll get it trayed, wrapped, and ready to transport over to the clients. So we'll come back to that here in just a little bit. Right, everyone, so got about 40 minutes until I have to be at the gig with round steak. Get there, do some mashed potatoes and stuff. That's a whole other thing. Heat the vegetables up when I get there and everything. So I got everything loaded into my car. And now it's time to pull this thing out because it's pretty much done. And it's going to finish off when I get there. But at least it saved us about 2.5 hours of cooking time, almost 3. Once I didn't do the foil yet. Once I get there. So, yes, I'm very excited about. We're going to go ahead and get this all out. It's always the trick to take big containers out of the oven for some of these bigger parties and freak chef gigs. But they're so much fun to play with me. Fuck yeah. So, oh yeah. That works. Okay. Now, for those of you asking, I already checked it, so I know it's all good. Alright, but, you know what? Turn that off here in a second. So you guys can have a nice look in there and see what it looks like before it all gets bundled up. Look at that. Hell yeah. And just to show you how fork tender this is and how it just falls apart. I don't want to ruin too many of them, but I do have a test piece in here. There it is. There it is. See how that just like kind of breaks apart with your fork? That's what you want. It's all done. And I'm going to go ahead and cover this up so it stays hot. And we will hit the road here. So that is my round steak. And if you want me to cook for your private party, special event, king party, bachelor, bachelorette parties, whatever it is, something where you need a pain freak, and you want to play with me and not your food, hit me up on my website, painfreakofficial.com, and this recipe is also going to be in my cookbook, so please make sure you check out some more updates on that, because it's getting close. I'm excited. So, it's almost done. So, I'm going to get this packed up, and make sure you check out my website. And love you guys.